Hello, and welcome to episode 50 of the Push to Shout podcast. I'm your host this week, Brutal Powder,
I'm Skippy.
and we are excited to celebrate. In the Push to Shout community, the Push to Shout family is celebrating its first birthday.
The family.
The anniversary of your two gay dads, Brutal Powder and Skippy Sigmatic, getting together. Hi, we got a great show for you tonight. Well, Skippy does, because I haven't been playing many video games. But my news from my world is that I'll be opening for BJ Novak from The Office this weekend.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm really excited. I really hope I don't fuck it up. But I've just been rehearsing like mad. I really hope this goes well. It's a cool opportunity.
To be clear, you've got it's a skit group.
Yeah, it's a sketch comedy, so it's not just me. But yeah,
you're not doing stand up, so I'm kind of disappointed.
Well,
I wanted to see your show.
I haven't done stand up, but I don't know.
I've always thought about trying.
I've been thinking of trying it. Yeah.
I'm so afraid of bombing though. That would be so awful.
Oh yeah, we've bombed sketches. That happens.
But at least then you're like sharing it with someone else. You can distribute
the first sketch. This is video games, but whatever. The first sketch I ever wrote was called Parenting, and it was of parents bringing their baby in. We had a baby doll in to see a parenting counselor, and they're describing how they raise this child, and they let it like crawl around outside looking for raw meat to eat in the street. Their idea of baby proofing is deliberately sharpening every surface in the apartment, and the playpen is like a blender, and then we feed it like whiskey on stage, and there's like crying sound effects, and we throw it around, and it was all. Anyway, it bombed the first night. People were like legitimately horrified that we were doing this. And I was like, oh shit, it was like the worst feeling, because that was the first sketch that I wrote. But then the next night they loved it. So it's so volatile. I would be scared to do that when it was just me doing stand-up.
Yeah,
because it would be all on you. Anyway, right. Video games. What's up?
Video games. Shit. I just got done playing Battlefront. I played probably about an hour and a half of it. The beta. They started the beta. It's really a demo. It's not a beta, but I started that a few days ago, and I finally got around to playing it. It's about what I expected. It is a very high quality game. It is a very well built video game. It's got pretty incredible graphics. It runs very well, and it's a little bit like soulless, I guess, or just like, I don't know. I can't see myself playing a lot of it. I'm kind of enjoying playing it. It's kind of like any of the other recent Battlefield games. Like, the gameplay isn't that similar to the recent Battlefield games, but the effect is of just like, all right, I'm in this battle. I'm gonna go shoot the bad dudes, and everything's so chaotic that you can't really follow what's going on, and I don't know. There's some appeal to that, but most of the time, the only time I'm having fun in that is standing back and sniping people, which I feel like a piece of shit for doing. But it is the only way I can have fun with that game. But
now, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It does have. I'll list off some positives and some negatives, and I'll start with the positives. One of my favorite things about the game is that it's arcadey. It is not at all like the Battlefield games or Call of Duty or any of these recent shooter games that are realistic or it just doesn't have that feel at all. You're accurate when you're not zoomed in. You can run and shoot without a lack of accuracy. There's basically no recoil on any of the guns, and also the guns don't have attachments or any of that bullshit. You just choose a gun, and it's got little meters for like damage, rate of fire, range. It's got like four meters for the guns, and they're all balanced, and you unlock I guess abilities, you would call them, by basically gaining EXP points that you spend, and you can put them into one of 3 slots. So you can have like a grenade and jetpack, and like a sniper rifle is like one of the abilities. So you trigger that ability, you pull out your sniper rifle, and you get one shot with it, and then you go back to your primary weapon, and it recharges. And it recharges pretty quick. But I thought that was kind of an interesting way to do sniping. So I like that about it. I think it's really cool. I think it's kind of brave of them to do that arcadey kind of feel in today's shooter market, I guess. They also have like power up pickups. So like a lot of the abilities are not infinite ammo, and you have to pick up ammo for them, I guess. But instead of just being ammo on the ground, it's like a circling lightning bolt just floating in the air, just like you would see in like 1990s Twisted Metal or some shit. Like it's really, really, really old video gamey looking, and I like that. It's cool that they just decided to do that.
Yeah, I didn't get to experience it. That sounds cool. I'm glad that it's that way instead of how it easily could have been.
Yeah, we all thought it was going to be Battlefield Star Wars, and it's definitely built on the Battlefield template, but it's not Battlefield.
But I didn't actually get to play it because, well, I guess I still could have, but I was just too pissed off. So I went in to my Origin. I had to download it because, I don't play EA games for the most part.
Yeah.
And I go to log in with my old account, and it was an old account with a name I didn't like. And I tried to change my ID, and it asked me a security question. Who is your favorite pet? And I typed in every pet that I've ever had, and every possible pet, like generic categories: dogs, fish, otters, like ants. I tried every possible animal, and then I even tried putting my brother's name in, Jack. Just nothing. It wouldn't let. I have no idea what that answer is, and so then I tried to make a Brutal Compounder Origin account, and somebody had fucking already done it.
Yeah. Someone took Skippy Sigmatic, because I tried to change my name too, because it's the same. They only recently allowed you the ability to change your name, and I should have gone in there right when they did that, because someone took Skippy Sigmatic. So now I'm like Skippy Sig or something.
Fuck, I was pissed. I just didn't make an account after that. I just didn't play.
Yeah.
So that's my origin story.
Well, you should play. It's worth checking out. It's just cool.
It sounds cool.
The main problem is it's definitely not gonna have a ton of content when it releases, because that's how DICE works. They're gonna release half the game, or less than half the game, and then release the other half over the course of a year through DLC that you have to pay an extra $50 for. And so I don't want to pay $110 to play this Star Wars game that is just kind of okay. But it's neat. I think it'll be really successful, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just not necessarily my kind of game. It's like Call of Duty is like a well-made game, but I don't enjoy playing it. And that's kind of how I feel about this.
If you don't enjoy playing it?
I don't enjoy playing it. I feel like the way that the way it's intended to play. Maybe this is the point of these kinds of games, but there's only very specific ways of playing it that I enjoy. Like I can't just sprint in and shoot everything. I have to stay at a distance and be a little piece of shit, nitpicking off people with low health and stuff like that. And that's actually fun. But again, that's people who do that are the people I hate in games, and so I feel guilty sniping and stuff. But at the same time, who gives a shit?
Is that clearly the most effective thing to do, or is it just what you've kind of fallen into?
Won't. Well, part of the reason it's shitty is I don't know. Maybe
does
it
it feel like
a
clearly dominant strategy, or is it kind of just what you liked?
I would have to play more of the game to find out. I was expecting there to be classes, I guess. I was expecting you choose a heavy stormtrooper who has a big gun and can take a lot of hits or something like that. But instead, it doesn't seem like there's classes. It's just build your own thing, and so running into the heat of the battle, which just feels like, at least for me, I just get shot down instantly. But a lot of people are doing that, and I guess having fun doing it, or maybe they're better at it, or maybe they've just unlocked stuff. There's a shield that you can unlock that takes a lot of hits before it goes away, and so if you unlock that and you activate it, you could probably get away with doing stupid shit. But the thing that I hate about the other Battlefield games, the Battlefield series of late, is that there's so much shit that you can unlock and customize and use that I never know what's going on the battlefield at all. I never know what weapon am I fighting against here. If I'm in a tank and I hear the lock-on signal, is it a javelin? Is it going to come from above? Is it a helicopter locking onto me, or a jet, or some guy with a rocket launcher, or what? I have no idea what's going on.
That's kind of weird, considering how good DICE is at sound design.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, and Battlefront has great sound design too. But the thing about Battlefield is just that like there's just so much shit going on that doesn't like you just don't get that feedback that you can focus on. It's just chaos, and that's part of the appeal of their games. But I remember like playing Battlefield 2 and being able to kind of like walk around the outside edges of the map and sneak around, you know, and not have people see you and play it really slowly. And now it's like everything's happening really fast. The rounds last like 10 minutes, and everything's just going crazy the whole time. And I feel like they should scale back on that, make it a little more slow paced. And then the crazy battles will still happen. Like there'll still be bottlenecks and stuff, but that'll be more novel because they won't be happening constantly. Thing is, there's just constant crazy battles going on, and it just that doesn't flow right to me. And there's some other just weird stuff about Battlefront, like there's no spawn points. You just spawn and hope that you spawn somewhere good, I guess. Like I guess it determines a front line and where you spawn based on that, but it's kind of like Call of Duty style, where it's just like you're on the map and you don't know exactly where you're going to be. Sometimes you spawn in front of an enemy too, which just blows my mind in 2015.
That's very well, especially for a game like that when the battlefield is so huge.
Yeah, but the battlefields aren't huge. At least in the demo, there's a 10v10 and there's a there's a 10v10 and 20 versus 20, I think. And neither of the maps, I mean, the 20 versus 20 is on Hoth, and it's big. But the actual section of the map that's being played at any given time isn't the most of the map. You know, it kind of, the front line pushes down a kind of a linear path. And so the map doesn't feel all that huge. They kind of went for, like, I guess, a Bad Company feel, if you're familiar with the Bad Company games, and, like, how you have to, like, capture different objectives and it's a linear path. It's like that, but Bad Company still had pretty big maps with a lot of detail to them where you could get around and not necessarily be constantly engaging the enemy, but it doesn't feel that way in Battlefront at all. And that could just be, it's these beta maps and that's how they're built, but I feel like that's going to be standard. Also, the weirdest thing to me, so like it does a really great job of feeling like Star Wars. The first thing that I played was the wave defense mode, which you can actually play like as a single player thing, and it has like a cutscene and stuff that begins it, which is weird.
Horde mode?
Yeah, basically,
okay.
Just waves of enemies, and you're down on Tatooine, and Admiral Akbar appears in a little video feed thing and says, "You have to defend the pods. The pods must be defended, and the Imperial soldiers are on their way." And it sounds exactly like Admiral Akbar, and everything sounds very Star Wars and looks very Star Wars. They've nailed it. It's awesome. They've nailed it.
Yeah.
Now for something sexist.
Boy.
So there's men and women, and I think you just kind of randomly get either a female or a male character. And for the rebels, that's fine, and it fits, and it's natural. But the 50% of the Imperial soldiers are females. And it feels really like I didn't think it would bother me that much.
Aren't they all clones?
First of all,
of the same?
Well, I don't know.
Isn't that the point?
I don't know if I want to go down that rabbit hole because there's a lot of discussion as to like how the clone goes to the Empire and stuff. But they're all dudes in the movies, and they're 50% women, and it just sounds weird to hear a female voice coming out of a stormtrooper. And it's not like the stormtroopers look any different or anything. It's just there's a stormtrooper, and then they're like, "All right, let's go get him." And it's like, "What? Whoa!" And it doesn't fit at all. And I also don't think there'd be anything wrong with saying, "Oh yeah, the Empire is sexist and only has males in there."
That'd be funny.
Yeah, it was. But anyway, I didn't think it would bother me that much, but it instantly bothered me because what I started finding myself doing is when I'd hear a female voice, I would think it was a rebel. And so when playing as the Empire, I'd hear the female and I'd go, "Oh, it's a rebel," and I'd go just like naturally, like not consciously thinking of it, just doing that. And then I started realizing, no, wait, these are my teammates or myself. And it's
your deeply internalized sexism.
It's internalized.
Rearing its ugly head.
Society has taught me to to think this way, and it's awful. But yeah, that actually, like, I was surprised at how out, especially when everything else about the game feels exactly like the movies. That just totally sticks out like a sore thumb. It was really weird. But yeah, it's cool. I'm glad that that's a thing. I think making a modern Battlefront game is a hell of a challenge, and they've done a pretty good job, I think, because making it exactly like the old Battlefront games, even though that's what all the fans think, I don't think that would work. I going back and playing Battlefront today, I would probably, like, online and everything, I probably wouldn't have as much fun as I did as a kid when it was, the standard of the time.
Right.
Everyone has nostalgia goggles when it comes to that thing. But yeah, that's Battlefront.
Well, there you have it, folks. I did play one video game.
Yay.
Change gears. It was right after the podcast last week, wasn't it? Soma? Or maybe it wasn't. It might have been. Whatever.
Yeah, Soma was that night, yeah.
Yeah, so I played Soma, and I didn't...
Soma.
I didn't like it. It was boring.
I warned you of this.
It was a boring game. Okay, so the voice acting, the most striking thing is how bad the voice acting is, and they're constantly talking. It's very distracting. It's hard to get over because the protagonist is just constantly running his trap about everything he sees and does, and there was one part where you get like this PDA thing and you're supposed to put it in the console, and it was very obvious that that's what you're supposed to do, because when you examine it first it says, oh, you need a PDA to put in here, and then you go and find it and you bring it back, and then he says out loud, like, oh, I better put this in there. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
It's
the fact that his voice is that way. It's that.
It's not.
I better put this in there. It's just such a weird. Like, every delivery is weird and off, and just.
There's ways to do characters who talk all the time. I mean, it's been done well. Amnesia, I'd say, isn't great in that way, but it's tolerable. It's not distracting, because part of it might be the accents. Maybe that lends it some credibility, but it's just very off. It feels like people reading lines, and that kind of it shouldn't. It feels like it shouldn't be this big a deal to me, but the whole appeal of a game like this, to me, at least, is to immerse yourself in it. That you'll turn off the lights and you'll be spooked, and it'll be fun because you're letting yourself get lost in the experience. But it keeps you at arm's length with that voice acting. It's not pretty, and some of the stuff in the game was cool. I liked the design of that first monster that was lumbering around. That was cool, but for some reason it looks worse than Amnesia, and I'm not quite sure why. It could be that the design is different, the art direction, and maybe its shortcomings are more obvious. Amnesia is very dark, obviously, and uses kind of simple textures, but it works, and it feels like a spooky castle. This, I don't know, it felt like a game like this needed a huge budget, like hyper realism, PT level of detail, but you're not gonna get that here. It feels like a designed video game. The locations themselves weren't, they didn't feel real, which a game like this needs to nail. So I have basically zero motivation to go back and finish it.
Yeah, that's about what I expected from that. I just seeing the gameplay of it just didn't impress me at all, and I've been struggling. I never got into Amnesia either, but and I don't think it. I think you're right about Amnesia. Just first of all, you think you remember it looking better, because I bet if you looked at it now, it's several years old at this point. But it was so dark that you couldn't really see much of it in detail, and that helped it a lot. But yeah,
and another thing. And maybe I just didn't get far enough, but I doubt it, because very quickly in Amnesia they introduced the lanterns, the tinderboxes or whatever, and you have to keep your light full. This game doesn't really have anything like that. You just kind of hide and walk away from the monsters, and there's no like cabinets to hide in or anything like that. You still manually open the doors, but it doesn't feel like there's a point for having that level of direct interaction, because it doesn't do anything with it. It's not like you creak the door open to, maybe if there's like a monster on the other side of a door, but there's no, I have to hide in this cabinet and barely peek open. And
Yeah.
it just doesn't feel, I don't know, it doesn't feel as fleshed out as Amnesia does in basically every way. It feels significantly rougher too, which is not what I would have expected from the sophomore outing of an indie who had huge success. Or it's not sophomore, but whatever.
Yeah.
I'm calling Amnesia like a turning point for them because it kind of was.
I was surprised at how much of that game seemed to be borrowing from the Aliens game, and maybe that's just because it was fresh in my mind.
Oh yeah.
But it
feeling.
borrows like doors are just randomly like locked by this like external device that like bars the doorway, and then you have to like disable that, and it just felt like everything was like it felt like it borrowed a ton from Aliens, which is ironic because it kind of invented that genre, and Aliens kind of, just made a game based off of Amnesia's playstyle, I think.
A lot of the stuff it had me doing in those first couple areas were just very arbitrary.
Yeah.
It's like, it's okay. I'm getting the key and I'm putting it. It's just like getting the PDA and sticking it physically into.
I remember you getting
the thing.
frustrated at that part.
I was like, come on. Can't it be some cool science fiction kind of thing? But no, you just physically, and it's huge. It looks really dumb. It's like a huge slab, like an iPad or something dumb. And then I'm pretty sure I guessed the twist. It might be revealed earlier.
Yeah, I
But-
read into it, and it said it was revealed not like at the beginning, but less than probably a third of the way through the game. So
maybe,
that's not as predictable.
Maybe the story does have something going for it, but
Yeah.
I just don't care enough to play it to find out.
Yeah. But yeah, I was worried that big twist was going to be, the mystery behind the whole game when it was like super predictable and super projected from the beginning. Like,
Right.
Yep, this is what's happening. All right. I've got more video games to talk about.
Let's talk about them.
We promised we would talk about this last week. Undertale.
Yeah.
What
What a game. Did you finish
I-
your genocide run?
I went back through and I started the genocide run and I got to Undyne and I said, nope, fuck this. I'm not playing this.
Batty.
Goodbye.
Batty.
And then the next day I was like, oh no, you know what? I
Okay,
can do it. I
good.
promised I would do it. And then I died once and said, nope, fuck that. And so I watched a YouTube video of it.
That is terrible. You fucking suck.
So here's the thing.
You have no right to talk about
I
this game
established
now.
last week that I don't like the gameplay. Like the whole dodging stuff is not fun at all to me. And,
I love it.
and making that more challenging than it already is just nightmarish to me.
Except that's not even how the Undyne fight works.
It's tough. She hits like
I don't know.
11 points every time, and there's the arrows thing, and I'm not used to using my right hand for the arrow keys and shit. It just none of that game clicks with me gameplay wise. I love that story. I love the music. I love everything else. The gameplay is not at all something that interests me, and I wasn't willing. And then like,
Well-
so the thing that sealed it for me was that everyone was like, "Oh, you're having trouble with this fight? Okay, well, you're gonna have a lot more later on."
Yep.
And I said, "Okay, I definitely want no part of this."
Well, I'm not gonna let that go unchallenged on the record. I love the gameplay of this game.
And a lot of people do. I know that I'm like a minority, and I accept that. And it's my fault, not the game. It's me, not you. That's established.
But okay, the story. I really don't want to go into heavy spoilers, but
Can it's been out for long enough that I think most
okay,
people.
okay, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So it's really unique. It's probably the best meta story I've seen in a game. or it does something with a meta narrative that makes it a real meta narrative. The
Yeah.
story itself is meta, but it's still relatable and interesting, and isn't just pulling fourth wall breaks out of its ass to get a cheap laugh or a cool look at that moment. There's an actual story, and you as a player are implicated in it, not just as a character. Specifically, the Genocide run does some very cool things with.
I think it's by far the best content in the game is the
Oh, yeah.
Genocide Run stuff. Like by far, and that's why I was so disappointed that I get that this is the point, but it's so tedious to have to like stick around in an area and just run around and wait for the monsters to pop up for you to kill. It's repetitive. I didn't enjoy that one bit. Obviously, like you're not supposed to enjoy it, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
well,
like,
I think
that doesn't fly with me.
no, I think that's part of the point, and not just
I
that.
know.
Not just that not just that you're not supposed to enjoy it. I think it's deliberately tedious. Getting a Genocide run is not as simple as killing every monster that you encounter. You have to go out of your way to exhaust all of the live monsters in an area. And to kick off the Genocide run, you have to do that at the very beginning. And there was a pretty dumb moment that locks you out of the Genocide run that you experienced. But
Yeah.
you very much have to be trying to do a Genocide run.
Yeah, I was just under the wrong impression of what a Genocide Run was. Like, I just figured I kill everything I come across, but it is not at all that. It is kill everything and more, way more. So I get it. I understand why that's the case too, because you wouldn't want someone accidentally stumbling into the Genocide Run because it's so necessary that you've already done a normal run.
But yeah, the Genocide run story is really cool, and I think that it's probably the game's. If you were to say that this game has any kind of like serious literary content, it's in the Genocide run. That it does something. It has like a legitimate message, or not message maybe, but there's value intellectually about stories and how you actually see characters in stories, and you just naturally don't hold them in the same esteem as you would hold a real person. That as much as you might like a character in a game, and they could be your favorite character in a game ever, but they're still fake. You don't. At some point, they become a system to you. And Undertale, it knows this, and it reminds you of that. So you get a very like cliche, very anime kind of ending with the true pacifist.
Yeah.
With, like Gurren Lagann, like all your friends are here. Go, you're determined. Save the day, save everyone.
Yeah.
And it's awesome and really cool. But you undo all of it because you just want to see what else is there to do in the game. Yeah. And I really love the consequence of the Genocide run. It's great.
Yeah.
So I guess you really should have played Undertale if you're listening to this.
Yeah,
right
and
now.
I'll give us timestamp of like when on the recorded version. I'll give a timestamp of when we stop talking about spoilers, and I'll also tell the chat. I'll type in spoilers over or something.
Yeah.
I think at least one person is muting it for this part.
So, after you finish your Genocide run, the player character, who is sorry, I'm kind of trying to figure out how to explain this. Anyway, this horrible demon child, he wakes up and he is going to erase the world, and you get an option: erase the world or don't. But at that point, it's basically out of your control. That you were so evil that you awoke some cosmic horror, just of completely unmitigated evil.
Yeah.
And it's overwhelmed you and the game. And then when you launch it again, it's just a black screen. No menu, you can't do anything at all. You have to wait for 10 minutes, and then finally he'll talk to you, and you sell your soul to him to be able to play the game again. And it's kind of like, once you've... In another game, if you play the good ending, and then go and play the bad ending just to see how horrible everything is for all the characters, you never forget what happens in the bad ending. This, though, bakes that in directly to the future story of the game if you ever choose to play the good ending again. That if you finish a good ending after a genocide run, then the kid possesses you at the end and kills everybody, and there's no happy ending possible anymore. I think that's really cool. It's great.
The best moments to me were when Flowey is talking to you as exactly what you're doing, saying like, you just had to know what it would be like, or whatever, like just saying exactly what you're doing, and criticizing you for it, and then the other characters start to do that too.
Yep,
and Sans saying, if you keep doing this, you're gonna have a bad time. That's been quoted all. It's like it's memetic now, but it's probably one of the best lines in the game.
And did you catch the line that was pointed directly at you as a shitter who was watching it on YouTube? It doesn't matter. Some people
would be too weak to...
Exactly. It doesn't matter if you're just watching a genocide run. It still finds a way to implicate you by directly referencing the person watching. It's like somebody's probably watching this right now. It's great. And the Sans stuff. So I just love talking about this, and I don't want to take up the whole podcast, but so there's a point when you fight Undyne, and she becomes the heroine. It says the true heroine has awoken. And at that point, it's like you're the villain in the story. But you become something like worse than that toward the end. That by the end, even in the good endings, even when his soul gets absorbed by Flowey or whatever, Sans doesn't care, because he knows that it can all just be reset. But now he has knowledge that you're an omniversal threat, that you could corrupt any possible
future.
You're
a player of a game.
Yes. And then God himself comes to stop you, the God in the machine, and then you kill him. And it's just great. It's there isn't anything like it in any other game.
I think I might have... I'm not saying that this reaches anywhere near the levels that Undertale does, but I think I even mentioned it in another podcast like a long time ago, when talking about Morrowind, how this is a mixture of fan theory and actual like in-game lore. It's an interpretation of in-game like religious scripts, basically. Not just religious scripts, but actual characters who have what seems like unlimited power. And it keeps referencing this thing called oh shit, now I can't remember what it is. Oh god, maybe I'll remember by the end of the podcast. But it references this concept of like reaching this godlike status of having unlimited power, and it's this mysterious thing that supposedly some people might have reached. And there's the theory that what it's referencing is basically the ability to be the player of the game, to bring up the console, and you can kill someone instantly, or you can spawn objects in, etc., etc. And that the writers were basically like writing in playing the game as an actual concept in the world, which I don't know if that was their intention, but just the theory alone was so awesome at when I first started reading about it. Such a clever idea, whether it's intentional or not. But Undertale goes that step further, where it's actually basically the whole focus of that genocide story.
Like that was one of my thoughts when I was playing, not the Morrowind thing, but when I was playing the True Pacifist, I kind of thought, this is before I knew about Genocide Run.
Chim. That's the theory. Thank you, JJF.
What is there a significance to that name?
It's just that's just what it's called in Morrowind. It's just like Chim is this force. Okay,
so before I really knew about the Genocide Run and what it entails, I thought that the fourth wall breaking stuff was really cool and interesting, and still probably better than most of it in most other games, and maybe all of it in all other games. Because it's funny, it's genuinely funny and interesting, cool when it happens. But it makes an actual story out of it in the Genocide Run, which was really impressive. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what to do at this point. So, like, you can undo the Genocide Run. You can go into your files and manually like delete them, and then you have to unsync your game from the Steam cloud to do it. And I'm like, on the one hand, there's clearly supposed to be consequences to your Genocide Run, but at this point, I don't even know if I'd be breaking the rules because it feels like something within the system of the story that that if you really tried and I don't know, probably not, but
Well, ironically, I mean, if you want to keep it within the confines of the game, I guess the irony would be that you still have this power to reset it all.
yeah. And the thing is, you literally can't keep the whole thing within the confines of the game program and what it allows you to do because
Sure.
there are several points in the game where it closes and you're forced to relaunch it. Like
Yeah.
to continue in the game, you must do something else besides have the game running and play it. So I don't know. Then I start to think like, well, what would even be the point of doing that? Because I do know what happens in the genocide run, and even
Right.
if my save isn't tainted, my image of the game still is, and not like ruined in that sense, but just knowing that that's there and that it knows, it feels like it knows that if I clear the whole game's memory. If I clear the whole game's memory, I think it'll feel a little bit like Flowey, where it really will feel like you've done everything and killed everyone, and now you're just
You're
listless.
playing the game.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
playing with it. It's awesome that game has made you think about those things and like feel that way about it. Like that's pretty significant.
Yeah, that's probably my biggest takeaway from it is that it has genuine content with respect to how you see fictional things
Yeah.
and how you think of them. Yeah, wow, it's a great game, great game. If on the off chance you thought that you wouldn't care about having this spoiled, just go and play it.
Yeah, and I mean, spoiling it isn't going to ruin it or anything, but it shouldn't. It
Yeah,
shouldn't be
it doesn't.
spoiled, but-
It. We talked about this a little bit. You said the surprises wouldn't ruin it, and at the moment I said they would. I don't think it would have ruined it. I really enjoyed the surprises.
I
but-
think the real appreciation of that
Yeah.
game comes from the examination after you're done with it, which you're looking at it as a whole rather than like the experience is great as you go through it, but that's not. I don't think that's where the really significant stuff comes from. It's by examining the game after finishing it. So, wow, game of all time.
It's probably easily my game of the year so
Yeah.
far. I gotta play Witcher 3, which
It'll-
Update 4 just came out.
There's no way Witcher 3 will... the way that you talk about Undertale, I can't even think how any game could... But maybe that's just your initial reactions. Maybe they'll start to wear off. Who knows? Who knows?
So I'm typing to the chat that the Undertale spoilers are over.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
This is
one more video game.
Before we get to
You go
video games,
first.
this is a very,
Okay.
very short thing. So you know that Guillermo del Toro story, The Dream About Him Shooting Me? Well,
Yes.
today's that day, October 9th. Guillermo del Toro's birthday, by the way. And I found that out. It didn't
Spooky.
spook me.
That's
But,
really spooky.
yeah, but I'm still alive. I haven't been shot to death. But there were two
Day's not
school
over.
shootings today.
Yay. The day isn't over, so there's still time.
Yeah.
Who knows where he is?
Knock on wood.
Guillermo watch. Someone in chat, keep us updated as to where Guillermo is. Use the internet. Use 4chan.
Okay, video
all right.
games.
One last video game, if you can call it a video game. I talked last week about how Davey Reedon, the creator of the Stanley Parable, had made another game called The Beginner's Guide, and it had an interesting concept of basically playing through some experimental games or game levels that one of his supposed friends had made and trying to examine them and figure out
Yeah, you told me
what
about
kind
this.
of person it was who built the levels and stuff. Really interesting concept. Did not enjoy the game at all. It's about an hour and a half. There's almost zero interaction at all. You just kind of walk through and listen to the narration. It's not comedic. I didn't expect it to be comedic. But I don't... So it's very personal. Like, very, very, very personal. Regardless of whether the story is... Regardless of how much truth there is to the story. Because, like, it's really... he's talking about this person who has built these levels, and you don't know if he's talking about himself or an actual friend or kind of a twisted version of people he knows in real life or something like that. You don't know. He acts like it's real in the context of the game, but it definitely isn't 100% true. But regardless, this is a deep dive into the fucked up kind of like depression and anxiety of the creator of the Stanley Parable and the Beginner's Guide, Davey Reed. It is a very personal thing. He goes deep, and I think people who suffer from depression and or have had similar experiences as he at least claims to have probably relate to it a lot better than I can, because I've never suffered from depression. I've never felt the kinds of things that he is talking about in this game. But to me, from my perspective, I didn't get anything out of it really. It was just kind of bizarre, in a not a very good way. But
Well,
a lot of people
I kinda
do
wanna
speak
play it
positive
now.
of it. It is fascinating. Don't play it. Don't buy it. Don't. You can buy it if you're just really impressed, but watch a playthrough of it.
Okay.
And if you're like, holy shit, that's a great piece of art, maybe give him $7 or $8 or however much. But it is not a game, and it's only like an hour and a half. I want to warn people not to buy it, to at least watch a video of it, and if you like it, maybe you can buy it out of compassion. But
Compassion.
it is fascinating. I do recommend to anyone to maybe look up a video of it and just kind of see what there is to see about it, because it is totally unique, and it goes places. It goes fucking places.
Okay.
So it was interesting, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm interested at least.
Yeah.
But this is the last thing I'll say about Undertale. You said the Stanley Parable, so that reminded me of how forgettable that game's fourth wall breaking was.
Sure.
So it's nice that this sounds, if maybe not enjoyable, it sounds interesting. So
Yeah.
it's I'm glad that you're probably not going to forget that game.
No, I don't think I will. And I was almost tempted to play through it again, but like it's just not enjoyable. Like it's not actually like just on a very basic level and an enjoyable experience. But you get through it, and it's complicated enough. The concepts and stuff are very complicated. You feel like you need to kind of parse it out in your mind, and I never gave it a chance to do that, because again, I didn't relate to it on any level really. So it's not for me. But
Okay.
The last thing that I have to talk about personally that I did in the last week is I finally saw in theaters The Martian, which is a book.
I'm meaning to see that, so don't spoil.
I won't spoil
I
it.
started reading it, and then I stopped because I heard there's a movie coming out, and
Yeah.
I wanted to see it. I know that's shitty, but it's not like a literary masterpiece. So
It isn't at all. It is interesting. It is unique as a literary thing. Kind of a running theme here. It might be worth reading, 'cause it's a short read. It's an easy read, and it does things conceptually that are kind of neat, that the movie doesn't go into at all.
Okay.
Like he goes really deep into the math and the
that's
concepts, like the physics.
I read
stuff.
like the first 10 chapters or so. I was
Okay.
borrowing my brother's copy of it.
So you got the idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that stuff is really cool when he
Yeah.
actually has to do the calculations. It makes it seem like he's not like an interstellar kind of space explorer.
It's very realistic.
He feels like an astronaut who is very, very knowledgeable about math and how to function in an emergency. Like he's probably had to consider some eventualities like this in
Yeah.
the past, and now he has to.
And he's got a lot of
action that.
time to think about, his course
Yeah.
of action and stuff. And so it's
I
like
wonder how that's going to
everything's
translate
planned
into a
out.
movie.
It's okay. So I won't spoil
Just
it.
broad
but
strokes.
It has to move very fast, and so part of the point of the book is that it is a fast read, but you go quite a while before he even makes any kind of contact with NASA or anything, and so in the movie it all happens very quickly, and before you know it, he's like, I won't spoil it, but he's kind of making his final moves to try to save himself, and and it's like, holy shit, we're already here, and everything's happening, and we're skipping a lot of stuff along the way. Huge parts of the book are just like narrowed down to like a 5-minute like transitional kind of montage and stuff, which of course it has to do that. There's a lot to get through, and it's still a long movie, even despite all those things. But it was good. I would recommend it. It's not, it's not deep. It's not. You're not gonna find any.
I'm not looking for anything deep.
Yeah, but I am. There's no way you could translate to this in a movie to a movie in a way that would be very enjoyable. But the thing that I liked most about the book was that those deep dives onto how the physics and the math works. So the movie doesn't really touch on that as much, and so it's nice to have the book as a context to what he's doing in the movie, because I think if you're just watching the movie, you're going, oh yeah, that works, and you're just it doesn't. Yeah,
I'll finish that up.
But it's cool. I think they built a bunch of miniature sets to be the surface of Mars. It looks really, really good on Mars. It looks very real, and it was really striking in some places where it's like, how did they do that? Because it doesn't look CG. And I hope there's like a making of video, and there probably will be once it gets released on Blu-ray or whatever. But I think they did some really interesting tricks there that I want to find out about, because it is a good looking movie.
That sounds, because as shallow as it is, that's kind of what I'm in it for. I want to see some really pretty visuals.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call that one of the main appeals of the movie necessarily.
That's not my
but
major draw, but
it surprised me.
As soon as I saw the cover of the book with that very orange, I thought this could be a very visually interesting movie.
Yeah, and it's Ridley Scott, so it's a well-directed movie.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's Ridley. People have been describing it as it's Ridley Scott's Apollo 11 or whatever. So, and now, that's kind of what it is.
I'm much more excited about it now than I was.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't get my hopes up necessarily. It's not one of Ridley Scott's best movies, but it's got some Ridley Scott. You can tell it's a Ridley Scott movie. Like the tension is well done, where you kind of get stressed out for him. That's one thing that makes maybe reading the book a little bit disappointing, is that like I was watching it with someone who didn't read the book, and they were like kind of getting into it and stuff, where I was kind of like, well, I already know what happens, and so it released a little bit of the tension. So I don't know. It's I don't know. I don't know whether to read the book or watch the movie first.
Oh, but odds are that I'll keep being swamped with shit I have to do.
Yeah.
And then I'll see the movie like next week before I finish the book.
Go for it. It's neat. So there you go. Oh God, was there something else I wanted to mention about that? I want to say there was, but I can't think of it.
We can always go back to it.
Yeah.
So
it's news time.
Moving on to news. Welcome to the news desk. Push to shout. God, that would be... Somebody already said this feels less intimate. This is just like a prototype of a layout. I want it to look nice, but I also don't want it to be
looking at it.
So yeah, this isn't final, just so that you guys are aware. But yeah, it would be so shitty if we actually had that actual sound.
Did we even mention that this was the last week of year one?
Oh yeah. I think we said it was. I said it was the anniversary at the beginning, but yeah. So we're gonna be making it cooler and better next year, or this new year that we're going into. It's been a year since we've been doing this, and even though it's not 52 episodes, there's been some delays. But I know because I got the email saying that the site has to be renewed. So it's been a year. Happy birthday.
Woo!
And we're going to do Season 2, Push to Shout.
It's exciting.
It'll be cool. I don't know what all is actually going to change, but...
I wouldn't make any promises.
Yeah, it's going to be good. That's my promise.
It is going to be good. Put that on the box.
Good stuff. Okay, speaking of good stuff, I'm so, like, overbearing with these segues. Jesus Christ. Speaking of good
it's a podcast.
Stuff,
You gotta get the segues.
Phil Spencer, he's hinting that Xbox 360 games might be coming to PC.
That is good stuff.
It's really good stuff.
It's been what we've suspected since like E3, I think, was when they started kind of hinting at that.
Yeah, because they brought him to Xbox One, and then we kind of figured that they're unifying the Xbox platform. Windows and Xbox One are all Xbox. So What he said was, and I think the wording of how he hints at these things are important because when they're just rumors, it kind of matters what PR language they're choosing. It that has an impact on how likely
Definitely.
or soon it's going to be. So what he says is, I would love to have the ability to play Xbox 360 on PC at some point too. So we have different things we have to think about when we plan these things. So it's still, it kind
About
of
as
seems
vague as it gets.
I think it's not quite as vague as it gets. He
At
mentioned
some
it.
point, I would love to have the ability.
Yeah, but the fact that he's put it on the table is for a company that's that large. That's a big deal.
Sure.
And he's not just like a nobody at the company, like a spokesperson threw it offhand. He's the president of that division.
When they talk about something, that means they're at least acting upon it in some way. Like it's definitely something happening. Whether it's actually going to work out,
they're probably
is the question.
trying. That's probably at least true.
But that's exciting. There's so many Xbox games, Xbox One and Xbox 360 games that I just don't want to get because I don't want to play a console. So that's I would love to play. I don't think this is on PC. I'd like to play Viva Pinata. I missed out on Viva Pinata. And,
yeah, I remember those commercials. Grant Kirkhope made the music for it, right?
Yeah, he did.
I remember that theme song on the commercials. Viva Pinata.
Good for Microsoft. I've said this before. I'm really impressed with Microsoft recently. They're doing a lot of good stuff. They're being a good company right now.
Did you see the? I watched this edit. I looked who posted it. It was just a YouTube video that I somehow got to, and The Verge made it, and it showed, The Verge, that terrible publication.
Yes.
Well, it was like the most over-edited, like super intense dubstep music. But when I kind of filtered that out of the background and how they were editing it to look all like inspiring, and I think they like linger on applause. They try to make it feel like this huge thing. It's very bad. I encourage you to watch it because it's how not to summarize an event like this. But the actual event, it seems like they've hit their stride. That I don't think it's ever going to be as iconic as the Apple keynotes, but I definitely enjoyed listening to the presentations more than recent Apple keynotes.
Yeah, I think recently Microsoft has kind of accepted that they're not Apple, and they're not going to be like Apple. They're not going to be trendy. They're not going to be a name that people buy their products because of the name. Like, of course, it's just Microsoft. They've just been around forever. They're just a thing. And I think they've accepted that when previously they were trying to be Apple, and it was going badly for them because Apple already exists and everyone already loves it.
There was a lot that pointed to that kind of approach, that they had kind of accepted that
they showed up at the Apple keynote.
Yeah, and when they were discussing, they introduced like a Microsoft smartwatch, because everybody's got a smartwatch now. It looks, if I had to buy one, which I will never do, I would buy theirs, because I think it makes sense to have like a long screen like that. It just seems to make more sense to me than like a square or a circle.
Are they using an LED, or is it going to be like, I've seen versions that might have like the thing that like the old Kindles used to use, where it's like battery saving.
It's magnetic. It's a screen with Gorilla Glass.
I don't see why they don't do like the magnetic stuff that's black and white,
because they can't. They're not competitive if they do that,
I guess.
But
seems like it would be a good idea.
What was interesting to me is that when they were saying which devices and which operating systems which phones it works with, they said iOS, Android, and importantly, Windows Phone. So they mentioned iOS first. It's like they've kind of accepted where they fit into the market, and it was a very confident presentation. There was a guy who is very likable, a noted change from a lot of the people that they've had speak in the past, but he was just like very direct and exciting, and he was announcing cool features, like, this is our new thing. You guys complained that the trackpad was too small, so we made it larger. We've got this cool thing that'll let you do HDMI from your phone, and oh yeah, this accessory, it'll also work with the old tablet that you got, so you're all set there. He was very engaging, and I don't know. I'm probably not going to buy a tablet or a smartwatch anytime soon, but if I had to, I would probably consider Microsoft first.
Yeah, I just thought for a while there that Microsoft was maybe not doomed as a company, but they were just going in such a terrible direction
It literally has been since Steve Ballmer stepped down.
Yeah.
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 Once-
And maybe that's partially a coincidence, but who knows?
I very much doubt it.
That was probably
I think it's
at least
clearly
a symptom
change
of
in
their
management.
of their changing attitude. All right.
Dark Souls 3. Okay, this kind of ties in with PS4 news too. I guess we can just say PS4 price drop, $50, cool. PlayStation 4 PS Plus subscribers will get to play Dark Souls 3 next week. I'm trying to look.
Really?
Yeah. Tuesday the 13th. Anybody with a PlayStation Plus account is going to get to participate in the stress test, the network stress test, which they call it a network stress test. They don't call it an alpha or a beta, which I appreciate. But you get to play the game. You get to play a small portion of the game. It's basically a demo with network features.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. I hadn't heard of this, and I just found out about it a few minutes before we started. So
Yeah, me either.
You can preload it right now, and you can launch it, and it doesn't work, but you can accept the end user license agreement and try to get into the menu. Like you can get it on your system right now.
It might be time to buy a PS4 because they just dropped the price from what was it? They dropped the price $50, so from $400 to $350. So, damn, PlayStation, get one. It is almost time for me to get a PlayStation, probably. God, I don't like playing consoles. I just want everything to be here on my battle station.
Well, because I'm at college and there's no fucking room for anything, and I want to be able to play my video games whenever I want and not share a TV. I've got them all running into my monitors here. So
yeah,
even though it's though it's all kind of a hassle, I can just play it like playing any other game right here. So that's convenient and cool. But obviously I'm going to get the game on PC when it comes out. I heard rumors, and they seem to be maybe translation problems or unfounded, that the PC version is going to be 30 FPS. And I very much hope that's not true. I would be surprised because Dark Souls 2 was native 60 FPS support.
If it is 30, it's going to be another thing where like within 8 hours someone has a 60 FPS patch that you can download.
Actually, because it's been months since I checked this FPS thing, so I'll check again. While I'm checking, talk about something else.
All right,
SAG strike.
Good transition. The SAG strike.
Fluid segue.
Yeah, we mentioned this last week too. SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, SAG-AFTRA. I don't remember what AFTRA stands for. They were voting whether they should have the authority to strike in their negotiations against several large game publishers regarding voice actor stuff. And overwhelmingly, their members have voted to strike. Not necessarily to strike, but to have the ability to strike in the negotiations. Which, it was like 90-something%, which was a little surprising to me because I think their demands are reasonable up to the point where they ask for royalties, or what do you call them?
Rev sales.
Yeah, they want God, it's like $800 per 2 million units or something like that of any game that they work on. Which, if you're
2 million units is a lot.
It's a lot of units, and 800 doesn't seem like a lot of money, but that's if you're a main voice actor and you put a lot of lines in the game. But like, what if it's like a game like The Witcher or something where you might have like 200 voice actors?
It's going to be everybody in the union.
If you hire one voice actor from the union, you're in the union. You have to hire within the union. Period. And so
that's insane. That's just going to
it doesn't make any sense.
So one of the biggest problems with games that use lots of voice actors, besides recognizing the same voices, is that it raises the cost of doing any story-related thing. that you can't have tons and tons of gripping dialogue and cool stories because you have to pay somebody to say all of those words, and all this is going to do is raise the cost of that.
Yeah, I mean, if Troy Baker wants, some money per... But even then, even if it's a major voice actor, the thing you have to consider is, are the voice actors replaceable, or are they something that people are buying units because of the voice actor? Like, is Troy Baker or Nolan North, are they driving sales of the game and therefore should receive extra money based on how much the game sells? And I don't think...
That's a very good point.
I can't think of any... Like, Kiefer Sutherland, maybe... But he's not. He's not like part of the. He doesn't voice a lot or anything. That was like a one-time.
The funny thing is, though, he's part of the Screen Actors Guild, so
there you go.
That would apply to him.
But guess what? They'd have to do that for every other voice actor they have in that game, which is probably quite a lot.
Thank you, boss. He gets $800 every time.
And that guy gets, no matter how if he had did a one session in one day, he would get up to like $3,000 or something like that, which is insane.
That's nutty. Is that?
And I think
that's just on the table. That's one of the things that they want going into
It's a demand, and so obviously you always oversell your demands, but that seems completely unreasonable. And I've done my research, and I'm pretty sure that is I have those facts correct, but it seems so outrageous that I don't know for sure. But I'm pretty sure that's how it is. But the real crazy thing about striking is that with most games, and I mean probably the large majority of games, they're probably going to be able to find totally competent voice acting outside of the Screen Actors Guild just fine. Plenty of games use a lot of their own like programmers and stuff to voice things. If it's just simple one-line stuff that it's almost a throwaway thing, they're going to just pay very little for those lines, and they're not going to want to get involved with the union and all that crap. And so if their union's striking, I see a lot of push against that. I don't see that going the union's way at all. It seems crazy to me.
I want to revisit that point you made, that are they driving sales? Almost definitely not.
Yeah.
I can't think of a single game that I would have not bought if some of the voice actors in it weren't there. All I really need is competent voice acting. Sometimes great voice acting can elevate it, but a lot of times the games with really, really uniquely memorable voice acting, they get relative unknowns. Like The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, the Prospero voice. I hadn't heard him really in any other game before. A lot of maybe people would be upset about Master Chief and
yeah, sure,
things like
that.
Well,
that's part of the thing. It's like
existing
games.
Mario, there you go.
That's the thing that maybe the strike could affect is, if we're talking about existing games that have voice actors that are in the union and they're trying to strike, that's going to push things like EA and these major publishers that have franchises going. That would probably be a big leverage that I didn't really think about before. But for the most part, I don't want to downplay the talent that's required to be a good voice actor. But for the most part, in most cases for games, voice actors are kind of replaceable because all you usually need is competency. You don't need a fantastic voice actor. You just need to get the lines across. It needs to be better than Soma. But yeah, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, it just needs to be competent. And even then, sometimes you find someone who is surprisingly good and who wasn't really trained for it. So I just that's weird and scary to me. Oh god, there was something else that I was going to mention. Valve. Their voice acting is consistently fantastic.
That's very true.
And some of those games, I would say, I'm kind of a Valve, or I at least was kind of a Valve fanboy, and so I would buy any of their games. But like Portal 2, and it had Stephen Merchant and stuff, and then like the Team Fortress game, like you know that Valve is putting out like these games that are so well made, and voice acting is part of that well made product. Yeah. I still wouldn't say that drives the sales though. That's as close as it gets, and that's not very close. So, yeah.
Yep. So to go back to Dark Souls 3, because I just learned a couple new things. You can't get it anymore. You can't download it.
Ooh.
But nobody really knows what the deal is right now. Um, so what I heard, okay, this kind of sounds disappointing. It's not clear whether it was a mistake or if they just intentionally opened up for only a limited time. I wish that I had downloaded it before we started now.
Mm.
But anyway, you can't get it now, but nobody really knows if it'll open back up on the 16th or 13th or whenever it is. So that's that. And I also found out that there's basically no word at all about 60 FPS. But yeah, they just really haven't talked about the PC version at all. They just kind of ambushed a guy in one of the closed door interviews, and then he just said, like, kind of waved the hand and said 30, and then said don't ask about it. So they probably don't really know. I think it'd be very strange if they released Dark Souls 3 for PC.
They don't have the
60
best
FPS.
track record for PC releases.
Namco does now. I mean, they're still gonna publish it.
Yeah, but I just wouldn't expect. I wouldn't expect what I would expect is that any missing features would be added, pretty soon after. Any necessary stuff like 60 FPS could be added by the player base, and maybe that's what they rely on now. Maybe they're like, well, we know someone's just going to make a patch in 8 hours. It's still just insane to me that they don't have someone internal that could do that. Just spend one day going in there and making it 60 FPS. I mean, I know there's some complicated stuff in there, but whatever. All right, let's move on. Did you see? Did you way to turn your phone on silent? Actually, no, that happened. I don't know if mine's on silent.
Skippy, I didn't turn my phone on silent. It just made a noise. You clearly heard it.
Anyway, Far Cry Primal. Did you see the announcement stream?
Before
for
we
this?
talk about the actual game and the stream, it's finally happened. They dropped the numbers from the names. It's over. Fuck it.
What?
Anyway. Well, this always happens. They'll drop the numbers because the numbers get too high, and they can't put the numbers on there anymore because people they'll say, Far Cry 5, that sounds stupid, or
usually like
Fast
4
and Furious
the...
7. Like, no, this is where they've decided to get off that train.
I'm not sure a number would really apply here anyway because it's such a drastic shift, or it appears to be such a drastic shift from what they.
I think that's bullshit. I think it's not. It's coming out a year or 2 years after Far Cry. 1 year.
I'm
probably.
talking about
Two?
like okay, but like we're talking about no
Setting.
guns, no vehicles.
Yeah, but they're still going to be all the same animals, and they'll look slightly more prehistoric, and you'll be going. Somebody wrote a kind of funny thing. I kind of lost it. I wish I could find it again, but it was basically, make sure to sneak into the tribal camp without setting off the war drums. And they were just describing all of the, make sure you look at 200 cave paintings so that you can increase the size of your quiver. It's going to be the same game, but prehistoric. And I'm
on a basic level.
I don't care anymore.
I thought it could be fun. I never got Far Cry 4, but goddamn, if they tried to do Far Cry 5 and it was basically like the exact same thing again, that would have been. They know that would have been pushing it way too far. Who knows?
I found
this could be a bigger difference.
I found it. Urduk. Climb that tall tree and scout the area. Kill 10 prehistoric rhinos to increase your quiver size. Invade the enemy village without sounding any war drums. Discover 200 cave paintings. Save your people and overthrow Morduk, the charming but crazy.
Yeah, I bet you do climb trees or something to reveal the map. I predicted that before I even knew it was a Far Cry game because it was a Ubisoft game. I don't know. I'm at least glad that they're trying something different there. It'll be interesting. I guess this is coming out really soon though. It was a late announcement, but I was going to say it would be interesting if this competed against Horizons or whatever, Zero Dawn.
Oh, there's no way. I think they're trying to.
Blown away.
Yeah.
Well,
who knows?
Maybe we've entered the prehistoric era of video games. We went from World War II to future to zombies to what?
You missed the whole modern combat.
Well, yeah, okay, that's what I meant. Like modern and then future and then zombies or zombies all scattered throughout there, I guess. And now you've got. I mean, there's other like Ark or whatever, the survival game. That's dinosaurs and shit, and pretty popular apparently.
Yeah, except Horizon is so unique looking. The design, like the cybernetic animals,
It looks
that's
awesome.
amazing.
I cannot fucking wait. Also, speaking of, I guess, whatchamacallem? No, the developer, CD Projekt. They're not the developer, I guess, but it's going to be the same.
A lot of the
same people. They've started talking a little bit about Cyberpunk 2077, which is going to be CD Projekt's next game, and they're saying it's going to be way bigger than like The Witcher 3 was, like in terms of scale and amount of dialogue and all sorts of stuff. That's probably going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to.
And I still need to play Witcher 3.
Yep.
I need to finish Witcher 2.
Yep.
I gotta do all that.
All right.
Destiny? Do we really want to talk about Destiny?
Just a minor news bit, because I do think it's kind of interesting. They've added microtransactions into the game where you can buy, like, I guess, gestures and dances and stuff. Or they're planning to add them into the game.
Probably the most striking thing about that is that they weren't in there already. It seems like exactly
you can
the
dance.
kind of game that would have that.
No, you can dance. They like right now, if you have the expansion, I think there's like 2 different dances for each class or something.
No, not the dancing. You could dance from the beginning.
You're talking about microtransactions?
Yeah. It seemed like this game... Like, we even talked about the model that they had to raise money, that they had a $60 price tag, and then the expansion cost a lot. And for a game that relies on a... I'm not going to say small, but core, basically unshakable community of nerds.
Yep.
And fucking horrible degenerates that are ruining Bungie. They could get so much money by just squeezing them, and I'm surprised it took them this long.
It is prime microtransaction territory. What I'll be interested in is to see if so they've added a whole new currency to make this happen. And then their excuse is that it doesn't affect the game or anything really, not the gameplay, but it just gives you gestures. But I'm wondering if it's a slippery slope case. We'll see. We will see. I will say that I'm not sure Destiny was built from the beginning to have microtransactions. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Battlefront is built from the beginning to have microtransactions, I think. The way that you unlock abilities and stuff in Battlefront just feels very like buy 500 points and get a card or whatever that you can use to... I don't know, it uses a card system to unlock... Did you ever play Titanfall?
I played it once.
Do you remember that there were cards that you could like deploy or whatever?
Nope.
Well, there are.
Care.
And other games do this too. It's just become a thing, like cards. You can use cards to get abilities or whatever, and that is just like that has microtransaction written all over it. So I fully expect Battlefront will go in that direction. But anyway, oh yeah, speaking of microtransactions, did you hear about the Konami and the FOB insurance? You can buy insurance for your FOB so that when someone steals your stuff, you get to keep it. Completely negating any amount of actual consequences to the multiplayer of that game, which people don't seem to like anyway.
But it could have been good.
Oh yeah, well we were excited for it in concept, and
I guess if you're still tasteless enough to be enjoying it, then fuck you. Pay for it.
pay for some insurance. Yeah, I haven't launched that game in weeks now. Not that the game doesn't rule, but no point really. Metal Gear Online, hopefully that'll be good, but expect microtransactions.
It's the way of the world these days.
Yay, Konami. I thought that was so ridiculous. Anyway, not much to say about that. That isn't incredibly obvious. This last bit is just something that I was watching right before we came on live. That was fucking hilarious, and that everyone needs to look this up. It is the promotional video for the Umbrella Corps game, which is the Resident Evil. I guess they're trying to build it as like an esports competitive shooter game.
Oh man.
This promotional video is about 5 minutes long, and features commentary from the developer team, and it's heavily scripted. You need to watch it. It is really bad. It is not. It doesn't reach the cringy levels of the Star Citizen FPS promotional video that included crowd reactions. At least this one doesn't have fanboy reactions in the background. But wow, you need to watch it. It is something else.
I really love those videos. Videos like that are my guilty pleasure.
Yep.
When like Ubisoft, right, did a lot of videos
Ubisoft
like
loves
that
to do that. Yep.
So,
oh god.
But speaking of Star Citizen, this could be our last news item. But have you heard about the leaks from people who were working on Star Citizen?
Oh,
It's
yes. That whole debacle.
So funny.
That whole debacle is it's
we
totally
always
crazy.
knew.
It
From
was
day
Gamergate
one,
all along.
we knew. Yeah, it was. At the end of the day, it's all Gamergate. But it's like these are the funniest testimonies for the development process I think could have been. Like they even say this was about making digital ships to sell and not about making a game. I couldn't take it. It was by, this is an actual quote, I couldn't take it. It was by far the most toxic environment I have ever worked in. These aren't all the same source, by the way. There are like 5 or 4 distinct confidential sources.
I think there were 7 that were kind of at least slightly credible, but 2 of those weren't. 7 that were confirmed. 2 of them were anonymous, though, I think, and the other 5 were like 100% definitely previous members on the development team. That whole situation is fucked, man. There's so much, just the actual situation surrounding the article being written. There's like a war right now going on between people who, I guess, think that there was a game.
They're a cult. They're delusional.
Well, yeah, but it's not just. I don't think it's just people who bought in. There's people who think that because the writer of the article has come out in support of Gamergate, they think that this is whole.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't hear that.
They think that this is a Gamergate
conspiracy.
thing.
That's so funny.
I don't know.
This got so much
it
funnier
blew
just
my
with that
mind
one
because-
detail.
So there's a journalist with GameSpot named Danny O'Dwyer, and I saw him tweeting about it and just talking about how bad the article was. And I was thinking, like, well, I didn't see anything wrong with the article. And so I asked him, like, well, I don't know what was wrong with it. And then he said, well, there's a clear bias going on there. And I said, well, what bias? I don't really understand where you're coming from. And he said, well, if you don't know what bias that article it was written from, then you're not even worth speaking to. And and so I was like, what the hell is going on here? And then I started looking deeper, and I realized he's talking about Gamergate.
That's the thing, though. Like, it's clearly not in there. You and me know a lot about Gamergate.
Unfortunately,
more than the average bear.
More than I'd like to.
So, if there really was like Gamergate political
conspiracies,
or even just like a touch of it, I wouldn't notice. I
read
the whole thing, and I didn't get that sense. I mean, it was a clear example of holding a company to the fire, and that's within
it's like it's
ethos,
a hit piece, I guess, is what you could call it.
I don't think it's a hit piece. I think
I don't know.
It's too well sourced to be a hit piece.
But they started when they threw in the racism claims and shit like that. It kind of crossed the line a little bit. They do have multiple
sources corroborating the racism,
but they all are ex-employees. So
But here's some quotes. These are great quotes. We aren't hiring her. We aren't hiring a black girl. Sandy Gardner, allegedly. Another thing allegedly Sandy Gardner did. Sandy Gardner would write emails with so much profanity. She would call people stupid, retard, faggot, accuse men of not having balls. What context?
Well, the thing about this is, like, at first, that stuff seems totally ridiculous and unsubstantiated. Like, there's no way.
But you read it.
Did you read the response?
I did.
The response from Robert Space Industries.
That was what struck me, is pages and pages
really long
covering
rant.
ass.
It's a rant. It's
Yeah.
not like an official statement. It is a fucking
Oh, it's an official
rant.
statement. It was issued by their
It
legal
is
department.
It is official, but it is.
And I was so
Oof.
glad to
It's
see
personal.
the Escapists. The Escapists made 2 edits, and they included some of the response by the Star Citizen guy, whatever his fucking name is. But they stood by their coverage. That's one of the things at the top of the article.
RSI threatened to sue them.
Yep.
And
they said nope.
well, they
we
didn't. I
stand
don't
by
think
the
they said
coverage.
anything really. They just kind of called him on the bluff, and then Robert Space Industries went silent. Obviously, because obviously they're not going to sue him. Like they would have to go public with so much shit that they definitely don't want to go public with, like financial information that I'm sure would be damning.
That would be fantastic.
So, wow, it is a debacle. It is very fun to watch. That whole thing, Jesus Christ! I continue to be amazed at the things that the fans of that game are saying and believing. It is truly a religious fanaticism
Yep.
level of just faith in the company.
It is
For
faith.
That's
a good word for it.
with zero evidence to back it up. I mean, it is religious.
These 2 little snippets, I think, encapsulate what we've known about Star Citizen for months or years, even. I don't know how long this has been going on. You've known about it before me, but
Yeah.
from confidential source 4, quote: "It wasn't about making a game. It was about a flashy demo for Gamescom or PAX or the next commercial. A lot of people would be like, where's the game? When is this going to turn into a game?" That's a news source. "It was all about making pretty spaceships and brochures and commercials and hiring big-name Hollywood actors to do voiceovers. We were never working on a game." End quote.
But that's, I mean, and yeah,
So funny.
but not surprising because you look at the FPS module and what that was going to be and how far along they seemed to claim they were, and they showed video of it and everything, and then they kind of just
Check your 6.
and then they kind of just shuttered it, and they said like, we're reworking that, and now they're making claims. I mean, like as recently as a couple weeks ago, they came out and I think made claims about how it is going to be seamless from you can be on a planet, get in your spaceship, fly up into space and interact with other players in your spaceship, and get out of your spaceship in space, and then fly to another planet and get out of your spaceship, and that's going to be seamless and loading screen free and all that. But while they're talking about that stuff, they're talking about modules, which would imply that there's
Yep.
not at all a seamless nature to any of it. We talked about it. It is unbelievable. It is insane, and I can't wait for it to just explode.
If it ever comes out, it could just disappear.
I don't think it's going to explode. I think it's going to fizzle. It's going to fizzle out. They're going to come out with something that resembles a game that
and
is
some
sort
people
of
will pretend that they like it.
exactly, and it'll just die, and nobody will talk about it ever again.
But that's kind of why I respect the No Man's Sky dude, whatever his name is.
Oh, I love that. Oh, by the way, that's another thing I should have added on the
He
news.
was on Colbert.
Yeah, and it was a really awesome little. Like he's such a genuine dude.
And-
I love to.
Well, the
hear
one
him
thing
talk
it's
about it.
one, Stephen Colbert makes no secret of the fact that he's a nerdy guy. He's obsessed with Tolkien, and I was very surprised to see a video game developer on a show like that being asked like actual questions about the game and like some respect showed for
It was
the
a
work
good
put
interview.
into it. It's like the polar opposite of Conan's clueless gamer. Like, huh?
Yeah.
What's this? What am
Which
I?
I like Conan stuff. It's funny, but it's not at all informative or anything.
Stephen Colbert showed the guy respect, and that was great. But back to this, he makes lots of these big promises, and it's one of those games where you explore huge things, procedural generate a whole universe, but he's not. And then you'll have a fully featured FPS thing, and then there will be a fully featured it still feels like it's a manageable scope for a game, and what you see is kind of what you get, and maybe it'll get boring, but it looks cool, and it's not I don't feel lied to ever in these No Man's Sky things.
Yeah, it's weird because you get you get way more backlash about No Man's Sky and its potential for being an actual thing that is what it's promised to be. You get way more backlash about that than I see with Star Citizen. Even though, to me, from the beginning, No Man's Sky has never promised to be anything more than a procedurally generated space exploration game, and people are just like, well, it's just too much, it's too big. He's promising way more than is possible. You shouldn't be excited for this game. It's not going to be what it's promised to be. It's not promising to be much at all. And then people were saying like, well, gameplay hasn't been shown, but it's about exploration.
Yeah, the thing is though, he's been like, especially recently, when he's just been saying, I don't know what this planet is going to be. I haven't been here and vetted this. This is just a procedurally generated place. And sometimes things look kind of goofy, but you're like, okay, that this is a game. You can play it.
Yeah, it looks really neat. I've been looking forward to that. God, I remember when that game was first shown at the VGAs or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And it was the only good thing on that entire show. It was like this shining beacon of hope in this quagmire, and that was in the worst year of video games in the world. That was like the 2014 just disaster that was the video game releases at that time. And then suddenly, No Man's Sky, just like, hey, 2015 might be all right, or whenever, 2016, whenever it's going to be. So, God. That's an awesome. You should look up that Conan interview, or not Conan, fucking Colbert interview.
Hey, what am I? I'm gonna fuck that, huh? She's
just
a pretty lady
spot
over there.
on,
See,
spot on Conan impression right there. It's really cool to see him. Not only like is he given a proper interview and everything, but like he was on the guest chair, like because like other like Conan is one of them, but Fallon I think has done some video game segments too. But it's like
they all feel like
come over here and play
gimmicks.
this game on the screen, and it's just a little segment that they do. And this was like, no, this
is
like
a featured guest
proper
of the show.
Yeah,
just like
cool.
Donald Trump himself. So now we know that No Man's Sky is a Donald Trump approved product, and this has been pushed to shout.
Somehow Trump always makes its way in.
He has to.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to give the POTUS the respect. Thanks for
the
listening.
future POTUS.
Yeah, season 2. It'll be funny if this is like that season 4 of South Park. Remember that, where they they called it South Park 2000. It was back when everything was called 2000.
Yeah,
because it was the year 2000. So they called all of their episodes like the name of the episode 2000, like Barbra Streisand, whatever 2000, and then the intro was just ridiculous, like all this over the top CGI like profiles of the characters spinning around and wireframe.
It was like the wireframe stuff.
It's like they're graduating now from 3rd grade to 4th grade, and everything is different, but it's literally the same show except in name. I don't think it'll be like that. Just more effort. I don't know about effort. It's not going to be a try-hard show, but it'll like be
I said,
fun.
No promises. It'll be good. That's all we're promising.
So, yeah, thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.